What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the farm. You can tell right here beside me what this video is going to be about. We make an onion video almost every year. One, because it's one of our favorite times and harvests every year that we have. These onions last us for almost the entire year whenever we stagger them or we select the appropriate, I'll say, type of onion or species of onion. Plus, we get a lot of comments and questions every year about our onions. How do you plant them? How do you maintain them? When do you harvest them? How do you dry them and cure them? All that sort of stuff. So we love to make onion videos and share what we're doing with you. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the wind is really bad out here today. So it is, just so everyone knows, it is March 22nd. It's late in the afternoon. There is a storm system or weather system moving in. The wind is picking up. There's wind advisories in effect for this weekend, but I need to get these onions in the ground. You can see they're already starting to grow on me just having them stored in the basement. But what I'm going to talk about first is the varieties that I've got to plant this year. So let's see. First one, Patterson. So first of all, these 4 bunches here came from Dixondale onions. You know, nothing new. We always buy onions from Dixondale. They are fantastic. We have great success with them. This year we decided to try a variety called Patterson. This is a moderate length storage onion, so I'm going to give that a try. And then this is Yellow Spanish. So if you watched our video last year, the Yellow Spanish actually were our best performers last year. Not a long-term storage onion, but they get to be very large, have a really good flavor, and they're a yellow onion. So, and I believe the Patterson is also a yellow onion. So that's that. Our staple every year, the candy onions, the super sweet, creamy white, you know, off-white kind of onion. Usually this thing is a fantastic performer for us. Well, last year it didn't really do so well. I don't know what happened, but we're going to give it a go again and see what happens. And then we're going with Red Creole. So last year we planted the Red Creole for the first time. It was the best performing red onion that we've ever planted. Really interesting wide and flat bulbs with a really, I mean, they were really pungent. They were storage type onions. We're actually still eating some now that we planted a year ago. So these things are long-term storage onions, 8, 9, 10, 12 months. 8 to 9 is typical. Some of them have started to sprout now, but you know, it's that time. I mean, they've been around for a year. They should be starting to sprout. So anyway, so that's that. And then I'm trying something different this year. We were walking into Rural King the other day, and I saw some onions sitting there, and they actually didn't look too bad. These have got a lot of green on them now, so I'm going to have to do something about that. But this was a Georgia Sweet. There's no tag on them. It was labeled as a Georgia Sweet onion. So I don't know. They're not nearly as well kept down here at the bottom as the Dixondale onions were. These have got a lot of, I don't know if I'm going to get a really good turnout on these. Even though they got a lot of green on top, the bulbs and the roots down here just look pretty bad compared to the Dixondales. So I'm going to give them a go. They were marked down. They were cheap. They were $2.50 a bundle or something like that. Whereas I think the Dixondales usually come in around, by the time I order 4, 5, 6 bundles, I think I'm usually around $6 to $7 a bundle, something like that. And there's 70 to 80 sets in each bundle. So anyway, before I put these in the ground, though, I'm going to come through, do like I always do, and I'm going to rake my rows out and get them set up. And then I'm going to recruit some help from Amy and the kids to help me get these things in the ground. So let's get to it. All right, if you've seen any of our videos before on onions, you'll see that we do this in every single one of them. And this is actually the preferred planting way. There's another rock. Preferred planting way that Dixondale Farms actually recommends is you create this series of hills and troughs, basically. And I'm just going through picking out rocks as I go. So this isn't fancy store-bought compost or anything like that. This was just a combination of fill dirt that's been augmented over the years with rabbit manure and several different things. Rabbit manure, chicken manure, our own compost. So I have put a couple cover crops over it. This section here is probably the worst as far as clumpiness. I tilled it 2 or 3 times yesterday, but it's still relatively clumpy. It'll get better as there's some big rocks in there. Man, throwing them out in the pasture field, or the field there. Yeah, that's pretty ugly on the side right there. But I'm gonna keep going through here. I'm just gonna make these hills and troughs, and I'll come back to you in a minute. All right, putting the finishing touches here on this one, on this box bed. I'm probably gonna go back over and just shore up these hills a little bit more, because they're kind of falling apart on me. Well, there's some big clumps over there. Man, the tiller didn't break up the ground the way it normally does. Oh well. When you order onions from Dixondale, they send you a little paper that kind of guides you as far as how big the hills and the troughs need to be. But I actually kind of do it a little different just because of trial and error here over the years, and I know how many rows I can get in with the size of the beds that I've got. And so I just kind of do it my own way. All right, so this is basically how we do it. Like I said, there's another rock. There's a lot of rocks. This isn't a really nice, compost or anything like that. It's just, it's dirt that we've had here that we've augmented, over the years with either, rabbit manure from my daughter's rabbits, or now that we've got chickens over there, although we don't add the chicken manure directly into the beds or even in the garden, we put it in the compost bin because chicken manure is so high in nitrogen, it'll cook whatever you put it on or plant in it. So I put it in the compost bin and I let it break down and mix it in with all the other stuff we had in the compost bin for about a year before I start to apply it to, I put it when I plant potted, tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, that sort of stuff. I'll plant them and then I'll put compost all around it. So I don't actually just dump the compost into these beds. But what I've got here is the other bed up there, which I don't have on video. It actually turned out better than this one. And I think the reason is I came out with a shovel and I hand turned that bed probably a month earlier than I hand turned this one, and it weathered, it got rained on, it froze and thawed and did its thing, and when I tilled it up, it just turned into powder. Whereas this one, I waited a little bit later before I did it and hand turned it, and when I tilled it yesterday, it just has not done what I was hoping for. But oh well, it'll still work, it'll still do what it's got to do. But what we have here basically is the width of the hills, if you go from bottom to bottom, is about 7-8 inches across, and then there's just this trough going down the middle. And the purpose for the trough, if you've seen in other videos and if you look at the Dixondale Farms website, is this trough is where you're going to add any fertilizer that you're going to add to it. You can also water in the trough if you want to. I've realized that doesn't work so well for me with the soil type that I have up here, and being on the side of this hill with these box beds, it really doesn't work that well for me to water that way. So I usually just bring a sprinkler out and I'll set it up and I'll just spray both of these beds, or all 3 of these if I have something in that one down there at the same time. But I will add fertilize. There's another rock. But I will add fertilize into these troughs down here, because onions are, especially when they start greening and growing tall, they're nitrogen hogs. And the taller you can get that greenery and the bigger you can get that greenery, when the bulb begins to form, it's going to start sucking the nutrients out of and the energy out of that green top to grow the bulb. So I've got to get my help out here. I've got to try to figure out where they're at. But when you see us in a minute, hopefully we're sticking onions in the ground. I'm going to show you here. Okay, so we've got help out here now. Taryn, what we're going to do to start with is we're going to focus on, see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 center rows going down the middle here. This is the best dirt, and then when I put the canopy over this, when we put onions on the side, they start hitting the canopy and they don't really grow as well. So we're going to focus on putting onions in these 4 center rows first. So you take this bundle and you go down to that end down there and you start working on this front row right here, okay? Right here where my hand is at. And you're going to space them about 4 to 5 inches apart, okay? Remember how you poke them in the ground? So you just take one of them and you just push it down like that, and then push the dirt back around it, okay? And you work toward me and I'll work toward you, and then we'll see what we got left over at the end. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put not so much here, but in that bed up there, because the side where your mom is at is bigger, I'm going to probably put lettuce up there along the edge, okay? Well, that doesn't take too long when you've got 4 people planting, but I mean, when you do it by yourself, like I used to do before the kids were old enough, it took quite a while. What did I have? We put out 4 bundles of 70 or so of the Dixondale Farms, which, just like always, the quality of the Dixondale Farm onions, they're nice, they're firm, the bulb is still firm, it's got a real nice root structure going on to it. These have started to get green tops from where I've had them in the basement for the past couple weeks waiting for the weather to be right. The others were the ones I bought at Rural King, they were a burpee variety, and honestly, I'll say I'll really be shocked if 10% of them even do anything. The bulb was soft and mushy. It's almost like they had been left outside at Rural King during an overnight freeze, and it's almost like they had just, frozen and ruptured, because they have no structure to them. I mean, with most of these, now the tops are leaned over kind of, but at the same time, that's not really, that's a stiff top right there from where it was in the basement for 2 weeks before I put them out here. So these are all the Dixondale Farms, and the bed you can't see up there is Dixondale. These back here are all the burpees, and I am not very pleased with the burpees. Once again, it just further reinforces my belief that the Dixondale Farm onions are just, they're the best you can get, in my opinion. I'm not going to cover this bed or that bed today because we've got rain coming in, and we're not really going to be down into the low 30s again until middle of next week. So I'm going to leave these uncovered and allow the rain the next 2 days. I think they're calling for 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of rain over the course of 24 hours. So it'll be a nice, slow, steady rain. Just allow the rain to settle in, soak down into the box beds here, and then I'll start putting up the row coverings on here. We left the outside edges here open, and I don't know if you heard me telling my daughter, but part of the reason for that is in the years past we put onions down through here, but when I put the row covering on, because the row covering comes all the way down here to the edge, any of the onions right here along the side, they're kind of growing up into that row covering. Yeah, now I could move my row covering farther over, but then I start running into issues where, like I got this purple dead nettle and stuff. That's not, yeah, purple dead nettle here growing up along the outside edge, and if I bring it too far over the edge of the box beds, then I get weeds growing up inside the edge. So it's just easier for me to bring the row coverings down flush with the outside edge of the box bed. Then I can weed eat and do everything out here on the outside edge. But right now I'm not cutting all this dead nettle down because the honeybees are loving it. We're feeding it to the rabbits and the chickens and everything too. So I haven't weed eated that all down. I'm going to leave it till we make use of it, and then I'll come through and weed eat it down. But probably close out this video. But if you have any questions about onions, once again, as always, feel free to drop your questions or comments below. I love sharing this with you and trying to answer any questions anyone has. Onions are super easy. You just have to prepare everything for them. And, really, as long as you can keep the weeds under control and you water them and give them the fertilized requirements that they need, they're really a relatively easy harvest to have. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Have a wonderful day. Happy spring. God bless.